Welcome to the Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. This podcast is designed to provide momentum in our God-given roles of leadership as we partner together to equip today's Christian leaders for tomorrow's opportunities. Whether you're a pastor, youth leader, ministry volunteer, parent, or student, we want to be your go-to and most trusted resource for equipping and encouragement when it comes to your ministry and leadership influence. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. My name's Eric, and I'm so delighted that you have joined us for this conversation today. We're talking with Margaret Olmedo, and Maggie is her nickname. Maggie, I'm so excited that you're here with us today. Congratulations on being here and teaching a power track at Momentum Youth Conference this summer.
I know, it's like I've hit the golden buzzer or something.
There you go. There you go. Well, Maggie is not only a Momentum Ministry Partners board member, so thank you for doing that, but you have been a longtime partner of Momentum Youth Conference all the way back to Momentum Travel Teams, or what some of us know it as Operation Barnabas. You're you're a veteran California elementary school teacher. Kind of give us some of the introduction about yourself. What should our listeners know about you?
Well, let's see. I've been teaching for 30 years, and I have worked with Momentum, I don't know, probably not that long. I mean, probably longer.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's see. How do you want me to start?
Oh man.
I've done lots of stuff.
There's so many things we could talk about. How many times did you lead travel teams?
I don't know.
She's lost count. It's so many.
I know that I led three or four times in the 90s, and then I led like 4 or 5 times from the 2018, and then till now. So yeah, lots.
Well, so many of our listeners are going to know you, honestly, because of that, through Momentum Travel Teams. You were a phenomenal leader. You were a disciple maker. I'll brag on you for yourself. You've done an awesome job of investing in the next generation. And
I think you were probably elite. Weren't you on a team when I led? Not my team, but a team.
Actually.
Yeah.
I went in 1998.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yep. That's
there
amazing.
There you have it.
Wow. That's amazing. I love it. Oh my goodness. Wow. So Maggie is the OG. There you go.
Yeah. Legitimately the OG.
Now, what grade do you teach, and how did you get into teaching? Give us kind of that side of the perspective here.
So currently I teach kindergarten. And I would say that I got into teaching because my mom was a teacher. And I think that's just like what I saw. My dad also was a Sunday school teacher. So I feel like it just kind of was a natural thing. I almost didn't become a teacher. I almost was a speech therapist. But that required more school. So I was like, nope. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know actually that I was a very good teacher in the beginning. So I think I've learned how to be a better teacher. I just think I like being with people. Well, to some extent, yeah. I like to be around people and like get to know them and stuff. So that was kind of something that was fun for me. So
I just want to highlight that if you have ever spent 5 minutes with Maggie, you know that she loves people. You know that she loves people of all ages, backgrounds, demographics, doesn't matter. She loves people well. Yes,
I try.
That's true. Yeah. Now, the other thing that I think is fascinating about you is, have you always been in public school? Were you teaching at a Christian school? You've always been in public school.
Yeah, always public. Yeah,
That's
always in
amazing.
public. Yeah.
30 years in a public school working with little kids, elementary school, kindergarten. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Not for me, my friend. I'll work with middle school and high school. That doesn't faze me. College students is fun, but anybody
Yeah.
younger than that, I can't do it.
Yeah. I don't know if I could do the higher ones. I guess I could because I
Yeah.
did with like travel teams, but I think I could manage. I'd have to learn, but yeah. Everybody's a little bit different depending on their age. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Maggie, today in this conversation, I'm excited to just pick your brain and learn a little bit more on, like I mentioned, what you're going to be teaching at Momentum Youth Conference in one of our power tracks for our students. So we're just going to give our listeners a little foreshadow of that opportunity coming up here in just a few weeks away. Momentum Youth
Okay,
Conference
yeah.
will be happening at Indiana Wesleyan University. We will live stream all of those sessions to our YouTube channel. So if you're listening to this and you want to check out what's going on, go over to Momentum Ministry Partners on YouTube and you can find the sessions there and watch along with us for the week. So be pretty epic. And then we'll have Maggie and all the other Power Track speakers. We'll record those, or as many as we can, and we'll get them posted on YouTube as well a couple weeks after Youth Conference ends. So today, Maggie, God has been kind of taking you on a journey, and we're going to just look at, and maybe you're going to help us here understand some of the misunderstandings, some of the practical ways that churches can help create environments where students can thrive. And so as part of that, there's this maybe new term called neurodivergence. And so we're going to help
Right.
churches learn what that word means and how they can help walk alongside of people through that process. So Maggie, first and foremost, just kind of give us, what's your definition of that word neurodivergent? I think I
I
said that
know.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. I feel like I'm surprised that people don't know what it is, but that's typical for me that people don't know what I'm thinking. So, neurodivergent is basically the opposite of neurotypical. So, depending on how your brain is, everyone in science would look at a neurotypical brain, like the way the brain would work. So if there's anything that is not working the right way or the way that is typical, then you would call that brain neurodivergent. So it's different than a typical brain.
Hmm.
So that can happen for lots of reasons. It's not just it could be like you got a brain trauma, it could be a stroke, it could be something, well, that we see mostly in schools is like dyslexia or ADHD or autism. Sometimes students have learning disabilities that don't allow them to learn as quickly as others. All of those things are neurodivergent because their brain is not functioning appropriately based on science. So,
Gotcha. Very helpful. Okay. So share with our listeners maybe a little bit about your journey and what kind of led you to study and research neurodivergence. I'm sure having seen it for a long time in the classroom was probably a part of that, but
yeah,
explain a little deeper there.
yeah. So I think it's kind of been a journey, I would say even like a quicker journey in the last couple years. But I think it really started when my daughter like hit high school and I realized that I knew she was different than everybody else, but I just thought she was just super smart and all the things. So as we went through the journey with her and learning that she actually was neurodivergent and that path that led to knowing like what her diagnoses were, that actually made me think, oh, wait a minute. Hey, maybe that's me. But it actually, even before that, even before it was me, we were living with my parents and my dad said the same thing one day. He was just like, I feel like that too. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh, that doesn't surprised me, right? So as I looked more into her and what she was feeling and the things she was feeling, it started to make sense for me. And I did have to take that risk and say, hey, I need help. Like, I'm not in a mentally good state of mind right now. So I sought medical help with a psychiatrist. And that led me to kind of disclosing or unfolding of a lot of things and realizing that I had ADHD.
Hmm.
And then when I was started to get treated for that, realizing, oh, well, it's probably more than that. So I found out that based on the assessments that are out there now that are more accurate, not just the old fashioned ones, that's a whole nother story. That I do fall on the spectrum, that I have a lot of tendencies that would classify me as having autism, although you wouldn't necessarily know it. But so through all of that, that's how I kind of came to this. And I also realized that there's been a lot of people that I've come in contact in ministry in the past that maybe have fit into that category and maybe have been slighted, for lack of a better word. And when I look at my classrooms now, I have a different way of looking at them because I realize like they're coping the way I was coping. And so that's kind of like why I wanted to do the whole podcast. I mean, not the podcast, but the power track
Yeah.
of did God make a mistake? Because I knew that, to be honest, I think the first time I thought of it was like before COVID. I think it was before COVID. No, wait. It was around like, no, it was like around COVID, after COVID. I had a conversation actually at Momentum with some kids about like anxiety and that kind of stuff. And I know that I might hurt some people's feelings, but I just have a very like precise way of looking at things. And I know that some people might disagree, but I feel like I kind of lived it, so I kind of understand it maybe in a different way. So, yeah.
I love that you're willing to share all of this and that you're kind of on this mission to help it make sense for people because so
Yeah.
often what we see in churches, especially in life and when you're dealing with people, is people process things differently. People think about things differently. People communicate differently. And
Hmm.
our brain and how our brain is wired, that comes out and that is evident. And so for us as pastors, as ministry professionals, anybody who teachers, anybody who works with people, you need to really be able to stop and understand why are these people thinking this way, or why did
Right.
this interaction go that way, or what could I have done differently is often where we go. But sometimes to think about why was that their response, to go the
Yeah.
other way and think about the other person rather than just ourselves. So I love that you're willing to help us dive into that and maybe make sense of some of these things. And so thank you even for giving some of those examples in terms of what diagnoses might fall under this umbrella of neurodivergence. So kind of to that end, when you
Hmm.
look at how we interact with people, give us maybe some of the most common misunderstandings that people have in churches, in ministry, even that maybe you've seen in school or that you're referencing here. Most common misunderstandings about people who are neurodivergent.
Ooh. Am I gonna get kicked out of the board? No, I'm just kidding.
Uh,
um I think the biggest thing is like what you just said, like their behaviors don't necessarily match what is actually happening in their head. So, That's a load. You just handed me like a very like a
We,
landmine. I have to walk very carefully.
no, we want to be
Um,
honest because we want to be
okay, I'm gonna be
teachable.
honest.
Yes. Yes.
I think so. Yeah. So this is a whole nother topic, but I'm a Gen Xer, and we always kid about Gen Xers because we were like literally left to fend for ourselves. So we were almost feral, but not quite. So
Mm.
some people think we're like grouchy and grumpy and all the things, but you can imagine like if we lived the life we did, we would be. So no, I'm just kidding. But I think that we were raised by boomers, and boomers were raised by silent generation, which is a whole other topic.
Right.
But the way that you acted and the way that you made yourself look to other people was very, very important.
Mm.
And even when I was a kid, like it was like if you didn't go to church, that was odd. Everybody went to church.
Mm.
And when you went to church, you dressed a certain way, you acted a certain way, and you looked a certain way, that kind of thing. So we've now catapulted into passing over the millennials, jumping over them. We've hit the generation X. I'm sorry, the generation Z and the Gen Alphas, right?
Yeah.
And these people are completely different. They're very altruistic. They're very sensitive to judgment and to stereotypes. And so they're fighting it. And they want people to be accepted just how they are. Now, that seems like a little bit of a tangent, but it kind of lends itself into the fact that because they're like that, I honestly think that a lot of them have a lot of anxiety, and that's why they feel that way. And yet, people like my age, or even a little bit younger, tend to look at that as like maybe being defiant or disruptive. And so, people with ADHD can't necessarily help feeling the feelings they're feeling. And one of those huge feelings that we feel is like anxiety, and we feel rejection sensitivity. And so, if we want to be true to that, and we act the way we're feeling, other people tend to judge us as not being strong enough or mature enough or spiritual enough to not act that way. And so a lot of times, and I've heard it before, because I act different doesn't mean I don't have the same savior.
Yep.
And so my faith doesn't have to look like your faith, as long as my faith resembles what Jesus wants me to be like. So yeah, I think that long circular point is just a misconception, is that we can't just all look like the same person. And when we don't look like someone that is comfortable to us, then we tend to make a judgment. It's kind of a natural thing, but I think that that's something that I think that happens a lot more than it should. And I think that now looking back, like a lot of those kids that stopped going to church probably had issues that we didn't know.
Yeah.
That wasn't their fault. Like they were trying to deal with things that were going on in their head.
Maggie, thank you for giving us context. That matters greatly. And I think the reality is human nature is when we interact with other people, we're looking for people who are like us. We're looking for people who will accept us. We're looking for people that we have common interests and gifts and things that we can relate to them. And so when you come across people that think differently, that act differently, that need a very wildly different set of things from you, it's hard.
Yeah.
In ministry and in church circles, that
Yes.
creates a very difficult, sometimes set of challenges. And so
Right.
I think what you're giving us now, even when you add in different generations, different mindsets, different cultural backgrounds, different upbringings, people's trauma that they've gone through, holy cow, when you start breaking it down and you really look at the whole of our culture and what's going on in our world today, there's all kinds of reasons why it can be challenging to navigate some of these relational contexts.
Yes.
So give us, you introduced at the very beginning that idea of neurotypical and now neurodivergent. Give maybe an example of a scenario, maybe something that you've seen play out where the typical side, neurotypical, what would be a likely common response, and then go the other side. What would somebody on that's neurodivergent, maybe how would they think about that same scenario but differently? Let's just kind of drive this home and make sure before we go any further that we're all on the same page. Can you do that for me?
Oh my gosh.
Let's say something in the classroom, like
Okay,
a
okay, okay,
student.
okay. I'll do something for the church. How's that?
There you go.
So, every church, please, if you're listening, don't get mad at me.
You're good.
But let's just say in the church, we always start out, and not always, I guess. There's just churches that I know that do this, and it's not a bad thing. But let's say they're like, okay, we're going to sing our song, and they sing our song, and they do a prayer, and then they're like, okay, go and say hello to
Yeah.
3 or 4 people. Yeah, go say hello and greet your friends, greet your neighbors. That is great for a neurotypical person.
I love it. Yeah. Okay.
However, it's not so much for a neurodivergent. And I say this funny because we went to a baby shower. My husband and I went to a baby shower, and they were doing, the games. It was like a co-ed, but they were doing the games. And there were games that required me to do nothing other than answer a question. And I didn't have to move. I didn't have to but once the game required me to get up and interact and move and change where I was like, I'm not going to do that. And they're like, come on. I was like, nope. So if I had the choice of not, now I'm different. I'm a different neurodivergent person because that's one of my, that's my thing is I like to collect information on people. So that's why I like to talk to people. But for another more common, if there's a word, neurodivergent, that would terrify them, is having to go and change from here to here, and that would scare them. So that is an example of how a neurotypical might look at something. So while the pastor or whoever the guy is up on stage or girl on stage is saying, hey, da, 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 there are people that are literally want to crawl under the chair and hide.
Yep.
And it's not about being extroverted and introverted. It has nothing to do with that. Yes. It has nothing to do with that. And I think we used to say that was a thing. I know that it is a thing, but I honestly wonder if it plays into the fact that there are personalities that require that solitude to refocus and regroup.
Yeah. I have met so many people that I would say are neurotypical, and yet they're introverted, but they can still they're willing to go shake hands and greet people in that example that you just gave us.
Right.
It wouldn't phase them. They might not like it. They might
Yeah.
not want to,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they're willing. They can do. Now
Yeah.
for others that where you're talking as neurodivergent,
Hmm.
they're mortified. They
Yeah.
actually can't. They
Yeah. And it depends on the kind of neurodivergence you have.
sure.
Because there's going to be the one that is going to not have a problem doing it, but then they're going to say something completely inappropriate when they go up to somebody.
Mm,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like they're
Yes.
going to say something wild and then the person's going to get mad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fun. For some pastors listening to this, they're like, "Oh my goodness!" I honestly, Maggie, I think this is so good and it's helpful because for some of us, we've never really thought this stuff through, and you just think like, "Well, it's what we've always done. We've always had a meet and greet time during the service.
Yeah.
We've always had." And you don't really take the time to break it down or think through how is this affecting people. I've often wondered at churches that do that. The church that we attend right now, they have, and they're creative in using different ways where, like, hey, just smile and nod at somebody, or give a high five or a
Uh-huh.
fist bump, or what. It looks different from week to week, but there
Right.
is intentionality and purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And so there's times where I'm like, okay, I like this. I'm as extroverted as they come. And there are times that I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
no thanks.
Yeah. But here's another example. Like, I don't know, you guys last year had up in the loft area, you had like a sensory area.
Yeah, at
I
Momentum
don't
Youth
know what
Conference.
you
Yeah.
called it,
Yes.
but I'm telling you, there was no space.
Yeah.
I went up there to sit and I was like, there's literally nowhere for me to be.
It's
It
tight.
was
That's
full of
true.
people.
Mm.
So, but you have to remember though, like I said, like it depends on the person because where my daughter doesn't like a lot of loud things, she could go to the loudest, craziest concert and have no problem at all.
Yeah.
But in certain situations, it would be
Yeah.
very overwhelming for her. So, yeah, so it's
Interesting.
like, it's just giving space for people to
Yeah. Yeah,
access.
we are trying to be sensitive to that at Momentum Youth Conference because of the lights, because of the sound, and so for people who have, we were just calling it sensory problems. You can't be in the room; you're going to have a seizure, or
Right. Well,
if
yeah.
it's too loud, or what. So we understand. We want to accommodate that. Yeah, we did
Yeah.
have. I think we called it a sensory room where you could still watch and hear and
Yeah.
be a part on the TV, but yeah, there's always room to grow in these areas. So, Maggie, help us for ministry leaders for churches. As where do you draw the lines on these things? And maybe the better question, maybe the better first question is, how do you identify who in your congregation, if you're talking to a student pastor, how do you identify which of your students kind of would fall into this neurodivergent? Do you like have them raise their hand on a
Fill out a survey. Um, please scan this
yeah,
QR
that
code.
that would be an interesting conversation.
Um, that's a good question. I think it would, gosh, to me, like, I'm all about like telling everybody everything, but that's one of my, one of the things that my family hates most because they're like, you tell everybody everything. Um,
Oh, I love it.
but, yeah, some people don't want to tell anybody anything. I think
Yeah.
the best, hmm, I think I think one good way would be to have conversations from the pulpit or from the stage, wherever
Mhm.
whoever the pastor is, has a conversation about like those kind of feelings and how they play out um,
Hmm.
in scripture. Like
Yeah.
if you're feeling this way, like is this bad kind of a thing. Because I feel like if the pastor has already said that it's my fault that I'm feeling anxious and I didn't pray hard enough, then I'm certainly not going to tell him that I'm
Yes.
anxious.
Yeah.
But when I
Mm.
make that space and I say, by the way, it's research shows that if you're feeling these ways, like it's actually because there's something else going on, and it's okay. Let's try to figure it out. Like, I feel like it opens up the doors for a conversation. Sometimes it's just being very like cautious of like what's going on around you. Like, if you look at Jesus, like, he didn't approach people the same way. And I don't know if you can hear banging in the background, but if you can,
No.
I hope not. I'm like, what are they like?
You're good.
Like moving the couch? Like, okay. But like, so like, if you look, like the woman who had the bleeding disorder, like, she didn't actually have to do anything.
Yeah.
You know, he knew she had touched him. And yet there were times when he would just sit with people, or he would just observe the situation. So I think that depending on the situation is going to depend on how you figure out what's going on. Because, like I said, not everybody's going to fill out the QR code.
Yes.
But like, I think you just have to really be conscious of like your surroundings. And one thing I learned a long time ago is 99% of the time, the way someone is acting toward you or around you doesn't have anything to do with you. So it's almost like, don't let your pride get in the way, and just like be open to why they're feeling that way, and don't take it personally. So if from stage, I guess it would be to talk about those things. If I was observing a behavior, I would probably want to, like, see, like, hey, what's going on? Like, what's going on? And just because their behavior is different or scary or unfamiliar to me doesn't mean that it's bad.
Yep.
Obviously, we've learned we have to teach our kids in school, like, the feelings are okay. You just can't always act on those feelings in a negative way. So, but for the most part, kids that you're going to have in your group, they're already going to have known kind of how to act. It's when they can't act anymore. We call that masking, by the way.
Okay.
When their mask is like starting to come off, that's when you're going to see some of those things. But a lot of them mask all the time, so you might not ever even know. Like me.
There you go. Maggie, I love that that context that you just put that in, because I think for churches, for pastors, ministry leaders who might be listening to this conversation, there's something important that I want to highlight here. I think the older that I've gotten, the longer that I've been in ministry, I've seen this play out, and our words matter. Our words matter greatly, and how we introduce a topic, how we navigate a conversation, how we introduce an idea. We can taint or project our own opinions and feelings and emotions into the conversation based on how we communicate. And so if it's election season and I say, y'all better vote, you better go vote, and you better do your homework, and you better vote right, like, I'm shedding light on
I know
where I
what you
view
mean.
that, right?
Yeah.
But if we
Right.
say, hey, hey friends, you have an opportunity to be a part of, our election and to engage in our government, and this is a duty that we have. It's a right that we get. And so we want to help you learn how to navigate this political landmine that is, and go study and
Yeah.
vote. Right now you're opening
Right.
the conversation, you're allowing for engagement, and that's a big deal.
Right.
So
Yeah.
to that end, I think you're really helping us really help think through what that looks like
Yeah.
in that process, and that our words matter.
Yeah, totally. Because you know what, that is like a conversation I have a lot with my daughter, and I have it a lot with like kids her age, little younger. They see things they see things we don't see, and they look at things that the way we don't look at them. And I will tell you 100% of the time, if you take that question to the Bible, it's going to shed light on what the Bible really thinks about that topic. So like, my daughter was upset. She said that somebody said that being Christians, empathy isn't always a good thing for Christians, and that we should, that it can be a bad thing. And she was like furious. And I said, well, I don't think that lady is actually using the Bible to say those things, because there's more scripture that supports being empathetic
Yes.
than not.
Yes.
And if she's using that for her own agenda, which she actually was, it was not a religious setting in which she was speaking, this woman. It sets them off. And then she, my daughter, she's like, well, then someone's not going to know who Jesus is because of that. And I said, well, the Bible is very powerful. And as long as the Bible's, around, which it is gonna be, it's active, and people don't realize how active it actually is, and
Yeah.
how it actually is living, and can change even our brain. So
All right, Maggie. So help us. Let's go one step further here in this.
okay.
Help our pastors, our ministry friends. How can they maybe navigate some of these? How can they show grace? How can they be aware and maybe just tweak communication methods in how they're communicating with others who might be in this category of neurodivergent?
Okay. So I laugh because I know that this is something that people a lot of times is sarcastic. But sarcasm and not being direct in what you're saying can be confusing. It can be confusing for neurotypical, but it's very confusing for neurodivergent. And you also have to remember that a lot of, not all neurodivergents, but a lot of neurodivergent people, their brain's hypersensitive. So like, they can actually sense when you're not being honest with them, or you're not being upfront with them, and that will automatically put you at a disadvantage with them. So you have to be careful of that as well. Just being careful of that. Being careful of seeing them like on their phone, or doodling or something, that is a sign of them disrespecting what you're saying. Is another thing. I think I can't remember what your question is, but
Yeah,
those are the
just
two
helping
things
them
that were
communicate.
first.
Yeah,
Oh, helping
to
them
be
to
aware.
communicate. Also, like being aware. Okay, so then also, gosh, I think just leaving space open to listen to them. Like, I feel like listening is something that a lot of neurodivergent people think that people don't do with them. We can be very good listeners, but because we're not always very good at saying what we think, people aren't always reciprocating that listening skill. So like sometimes even when I'm talking to you right now, I think, oh Lord, was I saying what I meant to say? Because I'm not like concise. Like I know that in board meetings afterwards, I'll say to you or I'll say to Jesse, did that even make any sense? What just came out of my mouth? Because our brains are going so fast and we can't always like say exactly what's in our brain and get it all out so that someone else understands what we're thinking.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a biggest thing ever is just, can you sit and listen and not interject? Because even I do that with my own family. And they're like, could you just let me finish? But it's like, it's hard. And I know that you think, oh, I think a lot of people do that. But for neurodivergence, it literally is like putting a stick in a gear. It literally can stop them dead in their tracks and they will not want to go forward. They will not remember what they were talking about, nothing. So it's like terrible.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because I think a lot of times in ministry, if we're ministry leaders and we're unaware of how we come across, of how we communicate, of how we listen, and how we ask questions and follow up with people, if we're unaware of those things, then we need to do some soul searching, and we honestly can alienate people. I like that even analogy of putting a stick in the spokes, and we're going to shut people down. And so if you're not quick to listen, caution. if you aren't even making sure that you're asking good clarifying questions, hey, before we go on, I want to make sure that I'm understanding what you're really saying. I think I heard you say this. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's good.
Those kind of things I think are going to help us make headway and really be able to take people with us and build trust and create a safe space for people to feel welcome and know that we have their best interest in mind.
Yeah. I honestly, like, I know a lot of people, and there are people that I think are super smart and super great, but I won't talk to them. And I like them. It's not that I don't like them. I think that they're amazing and they could be great leaders.
Yeah.
But I won't necessarily talk to them. Like, I'll listen to them, but I won't, like, they don't know me.
You won't trust them with things that are heavy.
Yeah. So you have to, they're very, I would say I'm cautious. So if I'm cautious, I'm sure they're even more cautious about like who they talk to and who they trust.
Yeah.
And we, like I said, we read people better than people know. We may not look like we are, but we can see who people are. Right. And, you know, if you give us a space and we feel like you're going to listen to us, then definitely we'll open up to you. But it's hard because a lot of times like you said, human nature tends to keep us self-center focused.
Yeah. All right, Maggie, last question. Give us a foreshadow of what you're teaching on. I think the question that you're helping students to answer and wrestle through at Momentum in your Power Track is powerful. And so first of all, I'd love for you just to kind of share that premise with our audience, and then we'd love to just be praying for you and the opportunity to speak.
Okay. Oh, dear. I've been thinking a lot about, like, did God make a mistake? If I'm not like everyone else, did God make a mistake? And I don't think that I really thought of it until like my daughter those words start coming out of her mouth. And I know that those words have come out of my mouth. I don't know if they come out of like a neurotypical's mouth as much as they do ours, but it's almost like I failed, I'm not good enough, I didn't try hard enough, I didn't meet someone's standards, fill in the blank. The message for a long time is if you don't check off these boxes, then you don't qualify. And while that's not how God ever intended the gospel to be, I feel like it has become sometimes that. And so I want kids to realize that they can't, well, first of all, you can't just take what the pastor's telling you in the sermon every week. You really do have to get into the Word of God and see what it says. And when you do that, you're going to see that there are a lot of people in the Bible who probably act a lot like you. And
Yeah.
and so if God made us, and he says he made us perfectly, and he said he didn't make a mistake, and he made us the way he wants us to be, then we have to say, like, okay, so, but how can that be if I'm not like everybody else? Well, you don't want to be like everybody else. And just using scripture to support that. We don't look at it when we talk about the parts of the body and how not every part of the body is going to do the same job. And nobody remembers the part about the little toe. Like, the little toe needs to be there.
Yep.
Whether we think it does or not, whether we care or not. And so we're all part of the plan, and we can't let people with good intentions or bad intentions deter us from that, because then God can't fully use us the way he made us to be used. And so we're not broken in a sense of being broken, because everybody is. Like, we live in a sinful world. Everybody's broken. However, the fact that we are not perfect doesn't mean we can't be used by God. So it's just going in and saying all those things you felt. Like, if somebody ever said like that was bad, let's just like start with a clean slate and start over and look at it from a different way. Because I think that that's where I've grown a lot, is just flipping the narrative.
Yeah.
Of like, if the Bible said that they kicked him out of Garden of Eden, did they really kick them out, or was he protecting them?
Right.
Well, I have to say he was protecting them, not kicking them out. Like, you have to like flip it. And I think that we tend to rely on what other people before us have said is true about what the Bible says, and don't look at it ourselves. And I guess I never really realized why it's more important to study it yourself.
Yeah.
And know it yourself. So hopefully I can give them some practical biblical things. Like, I'm not going to just like do anything that isn't from the Bible. I'm just going to be like, hey, this is what it says. Like, it's just because like I said, it's active. It's going to do its job. I just don't want people to feel like they don't belong, because I know a lot of them feel like they don't belong.
No, Maggie, you sent your notes, and I looked through your slides, and the content that you have is rooted in God's word. And I love that you're going to help these students wrestle with maybe some of their deepest question of, did God make a mistake? And maybe some of them, honestly, maybe they've not articulated it that way, but it's in there. They've wondered, and so just helping them realize that God is all-knowing, and he is omnipotent, and he created you. He didn't make mistakes. He knew exactly what he was doing. He gave you the gifts and abilities and the things that he needs you to have maximum impact for his kingdom. And so the people that are around you, you get to impact using those special gifts, the things that make you unique, the fact that maybe you have some of these tendencies, or you think differently. And so that it's all part of his design and a part of his plan, and it's beautiful, and we're all a part of the body. And so I love that you're helping these students wrestle with that and think that through. It'll be so fun to get to see the light bulbs come on for them
I hope
when they
so.
realize, oh my word, It's going to be awesome.
I think that the reason it's so important is I had a recent conversation with a student and I said, oh yeah, all that you're feeling, that's normal. Because no one was telling her it was normal. They were telling her it wasn't normal. Or they were telling her it was normal, but just get over it.
Yeah.
And so I just want to jump in there and be like, yeah, I know what you're thinking. I've been there. I've been in your spot. I've had people tell me that I'm lazy, that I didn't work hard enough, punish me because I didn't want to do something for God. When really I couldn't handle it at the time. Like I really was overwhelmed. I couldn't do it. And I know what you're feeling. But none of that happens in the Bible. So let's just get rid of that and let's start from scratch. So
good. Well, Maggie, thank you for engaging in this conversation with us. I know we're really scratching the surface here of what's available, and I really pray that for some, this will put you on a journey to learn more about this yourself. And for others, maybe it's affirmation of what you have been realizing lately and what God's putting on your heart. And so wherever you're at in that range, we really do hope and pray that this conversation would benefit you and the ministry that you're in as you walk with people and help make Jesus make sense to them. So Maggie, thank you for being a
You're
part
welcome.
of this.
I have a shameless plug.
Do it.
I am going to publish my book. I Am Your Kevin Bacon. And then once it's published, that will give you a lot of information, more about what I just talked about. But then once it's published, my next one is going to be on, did God make a mistake if I'm neurodivergent? So yeah, that's my next book. But shameless plug. I know there's a lot of kids out there that are like, come on, Maggie, you said you had it. I just am editing it now. So it's going to come.
All right.
Hopefully
we'll look
before
for it
Momentum.
when it's out then. That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge and your wisdom. I think this has been tremendously helpful. And to our listeners, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. We hope you found it to be valuable. And if you did, would you share it with someone else in your network who might enjoy it? Also, would you please go on and subscribe, rate, and review it? That way you don't miss any more and somebody else will be able to find it too. Also, because we want to be your trusted resource, if you have a question or topic that you would like us to discuss on an upcoming episode, send that to us via email to info@buildmomentum.org, or you can send us a DM on any of our social media platforms. You can find us there at Momentum Ministry Partners. Also, if you need more information on our ministry, be sure to check out our website at buildmomentum.org. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you next time.